the last director I worked with that actually was on this side of the camera, not sitting behind a monitor.
Yeah, right in the beginning when we first started, it was like David was always on the end of the dolly. I mean, he would be like, the camera would be on the dolly, he would sit on the dolly underneath the camera, and the camera was right there. I mean, it was incredible. And by the end, though, I think he was monitoring.
But do you remember when we were in the car together in the pilot?
And he stayed in the car.
So Bobby's driving, Shelly's snuggled up next to him, and David's right.
I didn't want him in there. I was like,
no, he's literally on the floor of the passenger seat. Now that I think about it, he had quite the view.
He always, on all of our scenes, we would always ask the kissing scenes, I'd always ask David, what, on a scale from 1 to 10, where should this be? He was at 11. He was 11. He always wanted us to like make out, always. It wasn't just a kiss.
In my experience, I always felt that David had the ability to just push you to the point of discomfort. I've seen it in other films of his, like in Blue Velvet, where he would just let the actor hang out there for that extra. Oh, you just want to say, oh God, let her put her clothes on, or let somebody rescue her, or whatever. But he would do that because something happens at that point. Something very real happens at that point, and he knew that.
I got to tell you, one thing that I was just thinking that David told me that one of his direction thing was, I don't know if he said it to you guys, but he said it to me a couple of times in different scenes. He'd finally get it and he'd say, Russ, that was perfect. That was perfect. Let's do one more. That was one of his, which I always enjoyed. Let's make it more than perfect, better than perfect.
So there's a scene in the Twin Peaks movie where the all the kids from the high school are supposed to be dancing. You know, coming out of, and David couldn't get these kids to move at all. Right? It was just a disaster. So he's on the loudspeaker and he says, "There are kids who have soul and can dance, and there's kids who don't have soul and can't dance, and then there's your people."
Just to add to that, yeah, he would, I don't know if there's, well, raise your hand if you're here because you want to be a director or you're interested in screenwriting or something. Oh, okay. David had this way of getting you to, you knew you would get down to your base level of truth. You knew that you wouldn't leave the set without, that's the scene that's going to be the best. And we're not leaving until we get there. And he would push you to that point of uncomfortableness where another director would get in and get it. And you knew as an actor, like, that's good, that's solid, but it's not my truth. He'd have this uncanny sense of, we're not there yet, let's keep going. But he would make you feel like, let's keep going, we're on the clock. It was like, we're all here to play together. I'm here to kind of find out, there's a discovery to it. When he would go in there, you discover it with him. And I still don't know whether he knew in the back of his head what he wanted, and he just kind of guided you there, or he really didn't know, and he was coming in there to discover with you.
I think it was both.
You think it was both?
Yeah, I think at different times,
Yeah.
But I mean, he definitely coming in with ideas, like, you could come in with an idea, and he'd shoot it down, or he'd accept it, but he never made you feel like uncomfortable asking or anything like that.
Yeah.
It was always open. Always. Is.
Yeah. So anyway, my encouragement is if you do, get on the set, respect the actors. I mean, you're there to work with them, and to get the most out of them. And it's an uncomfortable place to be. It's hard to get in front of the camera. It's hard to open yourself up. It's hard. Make it safe. Make it safe for them. Challenge them. Know what you want, but you've got to be able to work with them and help them.
Yeah. Being good to actors is better than being bad cast. Like, I mean, you know, you hear these stories of like Howard Hawks or like, you know, Friedkin shooting guns off people's feet and stuff like that. That sort of stuff has never worked for me in my career when guys have tried to, like, you know, they want me to be angry or something and they'll try to manipulate me into being angry as a person so it never works. It's like way better to be like complimented and to be like, that was great, but try this, a positive aspect. You can get an actor to do anything for it.
But the hard thing is that nowadays with television shows, you're on the clock. Every single second it has a price tag to it, and people will just rush through it, and they'll say it's good enough, move on. It's good enough, move on.
Right.
And I don't know how David was able to do this, and he completely ruined me from that point forward, because then I always went, no, it's not the best it could be, and you know, and you sort of left with that sinking feeling. So I guess try to take that into this new world of money, and I would assume it was probably like that even before Twin Peaks, I guess. I don't know.
Well, do you think that, and also, like, the crew got frustrated when David would come in because, you know, we were on a TV schedule and we had other TV directors coming in and, you know, we were moving pretty good, but when David would come in, the whole pace would change. It would be like, we'd do whatever, it'd take however long it took. It wasn't like, you know, Greg Feinberg would be like, you know, chomping his nails, you know, because, you know, we're overtime and crew and all this stuff, but, you know, it was like, we never felt that pressure, ever.
Well, and Jill, you were in a set that frequently had a lot of people also moving around. There must have been some crazy things going on there. I mean, once you're at the Great Northern, you've got Norwegians, you've got the Icelandic folk running around.
Yeah, in those great big huge scenes like that, directors were like traffic cops, which is a good thing. You know, it's just moving all these people around and having all these elements happen, especially the musical scenes, or like the big fire scene at the end of this. You know, that was a huge night out by Lake Malibu, I think it was, and it was freezing cold, and the fire kept getting bigger and bigger and out of control, and but it was orchestrated beautifully. David knew exactly what he wanted to do. You know? I was not acting; those were real screams. Exactly, I know. I mean, it was scary as hell. It was all. It's so easy to get out of control. It's really true. But yeah, it's so. I mean, he's such a concept director, which is the best way to be.
Yeah, my question is to all the actors. It's such a big cast, and I mean, look, there's 6 of you here tonight, and it's just a tiny portion of the people on the show. You guys were also kind of isolated by your storylines. Was there any other actors on the show that you wished you would have had a scene with or more scenes with that you didn't ever get a chance to play opposite?
Well, I wish I could have done more scenes with all these guys, but I mean, these are all the people I worked with, so I mean, I don't know.
I basically served coffee to Cooper all the time. That's what I did. And sang with Ray Wise.
My character was pretty much of a loner, so I didn't get to work with you know, too many outside of these guys. I mean, we did a couple of scenes, but I was basically always sneaking around by myself.
I always felt content with my storylines, but then we had so many events that we would go to, and it would be like a reunion every time we would go, every upfronts or every, you know, kind of publicity thing. And so we'd come across each other on set, and we, you know, it was a great camaraderie between everybody, but there was always a lot going on for each of our, it was a huge world in Twin Peaks. So.
Remember right after we got on the air, we used to we did this a lot. We would meet at a restaurant or a bar, and we'd go into something where they'd have the TV, and we would take it over and change the channel and sit there and watch the show and shush everybody in the restaurant or the bar. We're on. Those were so much. It was really fun.
Do you remember in New York when we would go from event to event, and we would people, like, fans would show up before we even got there, and we wouldn't know how they knew we didn't even know where we were going. It was sort of
Before
secret.
the internet.
Yeah, it was crazy.
I would have liked to have seen more of Shelly and Heidi. How is it that she's only in the first and the last episode?
Heidi, the German waitress. I love that girl. Wasn't she also in the commercial? Did she come back?
Bob, do you know? I mean, at first, that's a fantastic moment in the finale that sort of mirrors that opening in the pilot. Is that just something you guys came up with? Bring her back?
Yeah, I think so. Yeah. we also did that. We did a coffee commercial that David directed that they kind of recreated that scene, the beginning scene. Thank you very much. Let me get my chair. Let me tell you. No, but I think I didn't.
Yeah, the coffee commercial.
Oh right, we did a coffee commercial, and we kind of recreated that Germans are always on time with a Japanese, the biggest Japanese star there was at the time, a young couple.
Yeah.
And they were in the scene, which wasn't like when the actual show was on.
One of my favorite funny stories was the guy who played Killer Bob told me one time that he said, we were just talking about how weird the show was, and I said, do you ever get any weird reactions? He says, yeah. He says, I went to the bank the other day, and he said, I walked in the bank, he said, people were dropping stuff. They were sort of backing up, and I thought that was sort of amusing. He, by the way, I don't even know if you know, he wasn't even an actor. He was one of the crew members on David's movie on Blue Velvet, and David was filming a scene, and he was just getting ready to go. You know, he said action, and then he looked up, and he was in the Killer Bob was in the shot. So he says, "Hey, get out!" And he sort of went like that, and he made this face and went down. He said, "That's Killer Bob." So he got the part.
Wow.
Alex, did you already talk? Did they talk about the coffee and the pie? It just struck me that was this big thing.
Pie
They'd have
coffee.
pie and coffee. They had the pie and